Broadcast is live.
Broadcast is live. It's Damage Inc. Day. I am about to hit the button that is going to make Kickstarter link all up to Damage Inc. And I thought I would share that. Sean, how are you doing today?
Doing great, man. What's going on, dude?
Anxiety, excitement, all kinds of niftiness, a mixture of it. I always get nervous when I do any project, even if I'm super prepared, but I end up learning a ton each time. It's just there's always, that fear, that little voice in the back of your head that's beating around and saying different things to you. So
Yeah.
I am officially, I hit the button.
You hit the button?
I hit the button. The button has been hit. And the project is now live. There is now Damage Inc. once again on the starter of Kick. Woo! Dude, did I ever tell you about the first time I went to a convention?
The first time? No.
The first time I ever tabled, I was, first of all, I'm James Burton, and I'm the creator of Damage Inc. I am one of those guys that draws and does all kinds of stuff on the book, and I have some writers helping me this time. It's Keith Carmona and Jeff Aragon, and as always, there's some work from Kira Burton in the book as well. Next to me is Sean Barber. Sean Barber is a fellow creator. He makes all kinds of awesomeness, such as Drive with Cerber. He is one of the men behind the lovely Belial. And we're actually working on a project coming up here soon, too, as well, keeping ourselves busy and making cool, scary stuff. Now,
Sorry. I'm actually actively trying to be on your page so I can back you and try to be like the first one.
Well, if you look at it, one of the things that I'm doing is the first people who are on the Kickstarter today up until midnight, they have a chance to get a free sketch card if they do a physical backing of the book. So if somebody's interested, they can get on there and then get an original one-off sketch card from me with ink and the whole 9 yards. I got an example on there. I did a little Miles Morales with my son coaching me about what he thinks the suit should look like in the background. He's a big fan of the hoodie look on Miles, as well as his
nice
spray paint suit. I like that suit too. It's the Spider-Verse one.
All right. I've officially backed you, man.
Woohoo!
I am pretty sure I was not number one, though.
Really?
It says one people plus you has backed the book. Somebody else was chomping at the bit, man, and I don't blame them at all.
Dude, well, I love the fact that there's a couple of people watching that. It's exciting to have anybody back something that means that much to you. Like, Sean, when was the first time you ever sold one of your books? And which book was it?
It was so one of my books or a book that I was involved in the creation
of? Whichever one tickled your tummy.
So the first one I will mention because that was a convention where you were actually tabling directly across from me when I was in the Oroville Comic Con here in Northern California. And it was for Into the Darkness, and that was a super rad first experience. So that was also, let's see, Kyron Silva was there. Oh, holy cow. Nice.
That's the book you gave me that day.
Yeah. That's super rad, dude. That, I don't even have a copy of that version of the book.
I love that cover. It's like
super only have like creepy. 2 more.
It was a good book. It's got all kinds of neat little violence in it. That makes me excited.
Yeah.
Violence always does that.
But I'm a fan of like action and horror and supernatural stuff, paranormal stuff, all of that. So it was really fun. And then to be able to sit across the table, even though you ran out of shirts for me, it was okay.
Dude, the ones that fit you and me sold out so quick. It's like I don't even know why
everybody was me and you sized.
Huh?
That everybody was you and me sized, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely should not have bought. Like most of my family is like all of Marikar's family, they're like small framed Asians. So I got lots of medium and smalls for all of my Filipino family. And I did eventually sell them, but oh boy, howdy, did most of my fans not be that size.
That was one of the hard things. Like for the iDrive for Cerber campaign, I was finally dipping in and trying to see about how T-shirts and stuff would do, and they did pretty good actually. I was actually really surprised. And at the convention at the Sinister Creature Con that we were just at,
That was
they
a
I
good
sold
day.
like 4 of them, which wasn't bad.
But getting back to it, when did that day at Oroville Con, who'd you sell your first book to? Do you remember?
Who did I sell my first book to?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a blur. The whole day was a blur. I
Well,
know that
that's
there was a couple of people that stood out because like people like Garrett Gunn came by specifically to get a book. Kenny Aitken actually, before I really got to know him, he still showed up and got a book, which was pretty rad. But as far as the first book, I'm not even sure, man.
dude. I remember the first time I ever sold a book. It's really hard to forget. It was I sold it to a pirate.
See, I guess that would probably help if I did that. No,
Dude,
man.
I was at SatCon and I was freaking out sitting at my table trying to, you had that voice inside your head. What if I don't sell any books? What if I sell two? What if I, that voice, the voice that none of us are supposed to be listening to. And
Yeah,
I got super nervous and I decided, what, I'm going to walk my jitters off. So I got up and I went out to go and just walk around a little bit. And when I came back to the table, they opened the doors. And right after that happened, this guy must have been like 6'5", this huge red bearded pirate, uh, jack jack hat on and everything. He starts asking me about my book. He's like, "What be this here book be about?" And I explained, Damage Inc. is about a few friends. They start this club hunting down supernatural monsters and superpowered metahumans, and they do it for their bounties, but they're not always good at it. They're constantly causing explosions and getting in trouble. And he started flipping through my table copy, and then he reached into this pouch and he was jingling around. I was like, "Oh, dude, he's gonna pay me in quarters."
right.
Uh, I was like, "Well, you can never have enough quarters," but instead he brings out 5 gold coins. He actually had a bunch of Susan B. Anthony's and slammed them down on the table and go, "This book here be worth its weight in gold." And I will
That's so funny.
never forget that feeling. I've even still got the coins. I never spent them. I keep them with me. They're in my backpack right next to the very first the like proof copy of that run, that Damage Inc. run when before I was a part of Scattered. And I keep them together just as a reminder of what it felt like when I sold that first book, that first piece of validation. And you get that same experience when the Kickstarter hits and it comes up and it goes, "Bing, you've been successful."
Yeah,
Woo! Looks like we're at 3 backers and all the way to $95 already. That was quick. I am super excited by that. That is awesome.
but yeah, dude. Yeah, I don't know. I had a weird thing where I went to a couple of conventions and like I know I keep going back to Garrett Gunn, but one of the things that really struck me is that when every time I saw him, he was always standing, always engaging, always
Mhm.
talking, and if nobody was at his table, he was out at people. And so, and he said, you have to set yourself a daily goal. If you don't set yourself a goal, you won't even push yourself. He said so.
That's true. And it's good to push yourself, and it's totally good to engage with everybody that's going by, not just having your head down at the table inside of your thoughts like most artists do. But, and I've been successful by having that same philosophy. But, you know, there's also a thing about worrying about that goal all day. Like it doesn't always keep you in the right frame of mind when you're talking to people, so that you're talking, in your mind, you're thinking about the sale instead of about the conversation. Chuck Pignot, who you've worked a lot with, and I've worked some with. Chuck is a great guy, and he's got this perspective about treating sales at a con or sales at, um, any type of a situation, even Kickstarter, is about making sure that you're okay with what's going on and not to miss all the things going around you, to kind of show up thinking about like a gambler saying, I've put all this time and money into it and I've already done that. It's okay if that's all it is. I'm okay with that. And I want to build on it and I'm going to do everything I can to build on it. But that money, that effort that is already spent, and to relax a little bit when you're communicating with people. I know that I've gotten a little too stressed out and gotten too excited about what I'm trying to accomplish sometimes.
Yeah, I, I this year I was able to pull back a little bit from where I was the last time because I realized that I missed a bunch of stuff because I was too involved in trying to sell the comic and stuff like that I forgot to actually engage in the community and to be not only a vendor but also a spectator. And I missed that part, and I realized that I missed out on half of what I love is the community and being out and involved and looking around and participating, not just being on this side of the table.
Yeah, that's a big part of indie conspiracy as well. Like you're really involved in that community. I try to be involved. There's a lot of admins that try to stay involved in there, and it's one of the best online communities I've participated in when it comes to helping each other, answering questions and things like that. So you definitely carry that spirit in a lot of different ways. And your table setup also is very, very good for somebody who's only been to a couple of cons.
Well,
I
thank
love
you.
your backdrop.
Yeah, that thing was rad. My brother actually bought that for me. Been fortunate enough that my grandmother was supportive, my grandfather was supportive, and in carrying on with that, my brother has been really supportive, and he was in a position where he decided to present me more or less with the opportunity to get a decent backdrop because he he's the only person certified in the entire United States to maintain, install these top of the class dye sublimation printers. And so one of the things that he gets to do is fly all over the world, not just the country, but all over the world. And he goes to shows and different types of conventions. And he said, to him, it makes a difference on the presentation. If you have a nice setup, people will feel more comfortable coming up
Oh
to you
yeah.
because they look at you as if you are more professional. You're already putting forth the effort into what you're doing. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that was a big thank you to him for that. And then other than that, I've got other people that come out of the woodwork and show up and bring me stuff that I forget, like I don't know, binder clips and stands.
Well, we got to do what we got to do for each other. I had a buddy, like my very first con at SatCon, that when I was talking about with the pirate, I was freaking out because I couldn't open my money box. I'd lost like my key and things like that. And one of my buddies stopped by like Ace Hardware and got me some tools to open it with on his way over to the con. He kind of saved me from having to like bang that thing around. It ended up being really helpful. That toolkit is now part of like my con box. I take it with me whenever I go to that part. Let's talk about our books though. With the book you are getting out right now that you just went and got through Kickstarter. That is Driving with Cerber, right?
I drive for Cerber. Yep.
I drive for Cerber, and that's the one you did with Keyroon and who else?
That would be Kyron. That'd be Kenny Aitken. He did the colors. We got Robin Jones on letters, and Mo Fuchsius was the original author to the actual prose version, the creepypasta story that the comic book was adapted from. So it's a lot of fun. A lot of I thought there was a good community. I got into it because my son liked creepypastas and stuff, and I one of the reasons why I do comic books is so I can have stuff that represents not only myself, but I can leave stuff behind for my kids. And so I thought, why not, go through this community and the creepypasta community and try to find something that I think that he would enjoy, that I enjoyed, that I thought had potential. And coming off of the collaborative effort of Belial, and I knew that I wanted to write my own book, which is The Treatment, which is coming up, as you know.
Yep.
I felt it was a good way for me to kind of shake off the rust and the jitters of taking on a solo project and working on more of an active role in the writing process and stuff. So it was my way of making myself more comfortable with leveling up.
That's not a bad way to go ahead and do it. I know that um, during the pandemic, it had its own different levels of hard. My family lost some people. I lost sisters, and everybody went through their version of that apocalyptic feeling, one way or the other. And so that part kind of got my head tunneled in. I basically just finished the last Kickstarter, and I really got my head run into the ground with what was going on. One of the things I did is I started asking for like anthology work, started working on projects for Travis Gibb. Chuck and I did a great little biker story that Orange Cone has that they haven't put out yet. I got to do a lot of cool stuff. I loved doing the anthology work with other people. Sometimes that's what you need is a project that kind of gets your head together, and that's definitely those things that that help me do that. Let's see here. I think if I click here, oops, nope, nuts. Oh, what I'm trying to do is I want to show some of the Damage Inc. artwork. Let's do a screen share. And let's do this one over here so that I can open this up and share some of those images. A lot of this stuff is on the Kickstarter. I've got them up there before, and people will be able to take a look at them, but I want to share a couple things. First, I want to share, speaking of collaborations, Key Rune was awesome enough to help me with a cover.
He did such a great job too.
Didn't he? Like he has this really classic feel to it where it's got this really classic composition. His colors are super bright, which is different than how I normally do it. But like the all the action, all the movement inside of it really came out well. There's a lot going on inside of it, but in the right way. I totally love it when any character beats up Gage. I'm a big fan of that. I love beating up that character in particular. That's always one of my favorites. Anytime I can get artwork that makes, because that character is based on one of my buddies that is like a glutton for punishment.
Really?
From his perspective, every time we play in our role playing games, anytime we start doing anything like that, he's the guy that likes to take the hits. He's the tank, and he definitely does that part. He plays his role well.
I'll tell you, that's one thing that kind of like does translate through like your damage books is that I can really tell, you can really get a sense of the fact that you enjoy role playing games and stuff, because each character has a very distinct feel. Everybody feels separate, but at the same time connected, which is where I feel like some people, when they try to do team books, they disconnect. And that's one thing I've always been a fan of with Damage, for sure.
I appreciate that, man. Did you ever read Poison Elves?
No, I think I actually have a copy of it somewhere, but I just never read it.
Poison Elves is a Drew Hayes book. He's one of those indie creators that did really well in the 90s. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2004. He's a big source of inspiration for me, but one of the things about his books that he did really well was every time the main character, Lucifer, was in a group, like drinking in a bar with his friends or anything like that, there was always this passionate exchange between him and his friends. Like all those moments actually felt just like what it would feel like hanging out with your buddies, hanging out with, the people that you care about. Friends are the people that back you up, such as all the fights that happened in that book and all the fights that happened in Damage. They're always got each other's back, but they mercilessly make fun of each other.
As they should, as good friends do.
As good friends do. uh, and yeah, like that character on that cover, Gage, we're always tossing insults back and forth. He helps give me feedback for the humor parts of the book. Like the stretch goal, if we get to $1,500, I'm going to add 4 pages into the book. And the 4 pages are going to be an exchange about where the characters are actually doing this thing. I call it an intermission story, where it's like the life of the club, where they're explaining something about the characters. And it's going to introduce 2 new members of Damage, a character named Gate, character named Sal. And they basically have to do whatever Gage says because they're prospects. And Gage starts making them do things like clean toilets and whatever. And so one of them chooses to be very thorough and start using a toothbrush.
Okay.
What he fails to mention is that he stole it from Gage's room, and it's Gage's toothbrush.
He really does get the short end of the stick at every turn, doesn't he?
Well, he does, but he's also kind of a pig, so he deserves it.
It's like the South Park Kenny of the group.
Yeah, something's always happening to him, but just like Cartman, his mouth usually justifies whatever he goes through.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of the book. Damage has always been has always had an angle where it's about found family and your friends. Like when you're one of those kids who grows up in chaos, you got to find other ways to find that family, and that's a big part of Damage Inc.
Tell me about it. Yeah, family is not necessarily by blood, but the people that make you feel at home with them. And that's a big deal. I know we've shared stories back and forth. I know that there were some similarities. We both had the funnest of times being brought up in this world. And,
Yep.
That was always kind of a cool little connection point for us, and I thought that was always pretty rad. And we've got kids. We prioritize those kids, and we both used artwork as an escape, and storytelling, and when you struggle with your own real life, sometimes making a story just seems easier.
Yeah, I definitely understand it seeming easier from a lot of different directions, and I've definitely leaned on that a lot of my life. I leaned on it so much I kind of made a book about all the experiences. When I was trying to hide from all the chaos at home, for me it was role-playing games, and specifically superhero role-playing games, which we somehow turned into more like a supernatural shooting gallery, which is how Damage Inc. came about, is down nasties and basically turning everything into one excuse or another for mom jokes and an explosion.
Now, did you actually play the old, like the actual, like the what is it, Marvel or DC, that had the role playing game, like Dungeons and Dragons?
Yes, the original Marvel was made by TSR, which is the same company that did Dungeons and Dragons at first. Eventually, that got bought out like twice, but Marvel originally was a really good game. It had a problem with progression, but it had this really good dice variancy rolling system, and it was a lot of fun. We played that a lot. The main system that we played, though, that inspired Damage Inc. was Palladium's Heroes Unlimited. Okay. And it very crunchy, takes forever to make a character. Combat takes a long ass time when it happens too, but we very early on figured out that even a handgun is more powerful than like 95% of the superpowers.
Oh, no.
That's why everybody in Damage is constantly loaded down with weapons. And
That's funny.
yeah, like all the side effects from being shot in Palladium were so much worse than being hit by a lightning bolt that it just turned into this natural progression. And you see a lot of the silly, dumb things you do when you're 14 and playing role playing games with your friends are the kinds of things that pop up in Damage. The silliness, like somebody bringing grenades, lots and lots of grenades, and then being dumb enough to being caught in a blast radius. That kind of stuff happens in the book. In the very first issue, there are all these explosions because they dump all these grenades on this kinetic monster made out of like grave dirt, and they blow the hell out of him, and it keeps walking. Things like that, or you try to shoot somebody and you end up missing and shooting the guy next to him. Things like that. I try to make sure that we incorporate the fun that is that. Like there's a lot of times that stuff doesn't always translate correctly, so I try to make it only work within the plot line. Like I don't exactly spell out everything that happens in the books. Like the D&D movie is a really good example. There's stuff in there that it was funny. Yeah, it could happen in a D&D game, but didn't translate that well. Like when the illusion fails and he's getting all
Yeah.
happy looking, that just didn't really work. And that really annoying paladin that was supposed to be Drist and all that other stuff. There's good parts. Oh, it looks like we've got another one of my fellow creators. I am going to click a button and add Mr. Keith Carmona to the stream.
Hey,
Keith,
how's it going?
how's it
What's up,
going,
Keith?
dude?
Good.
Everybody, Keith Carmona is a very respected author in the comic books community for me. He is a member of
No need to
Scattered.
bow.
His main book is Blank, and his second book is Dr. Dream.
Yeah.
Dr. Dream's got like 5 or 6 issues out. Keith, 5, right?
4 right now. We're working on 5 as we speak. Actually, it should be done in November.
There
Right.
you go.
Yeah.
And he is a teacher of many things, but specifically done a lot of work with a local community, works at Mira Loma High School where he teaches kids how to write. He's been kind enough to invite me to speak at those classes as well as other Scattered creators.
Yep.
It's always been a lot of fun having that energy and talking to all these kids about what they're doing and how they're doing it and trying to give the advice. I tend to focus on get it done. That's the most important part of any project. Turn your project into a product. Don't just sit on it and try to make it perfect.
Yep.
But Keith has done a ton of stuff. He and I have traveled to many cons in the same car.
Yeah.
We've been to Santa Rosa a bunch. I've enjoyed all those trips. So welcome, Keith. Today is Damage Inc. Day.
Yes.
We're also talking about our projects and what things are going on. So how are you doing? And how are your projects going?
My projects are going well. I do want to talk a little bit about Damage Inc. Because I was fortunate enough to be able to write one of the stories that's in the issue there, and it was we talked about it before in a video, but in case anybody out there hasn't seen the video or anything like that James shot, it was really fun to take the characters and you were obviously describing some of the characters, the hardware they have and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun to work with. And man, when you're a writer and you've got characters like that all have very interesting, distinct personalities, and you kind of get them together, so many fun things can happen. I think part of it was I had to really get into the characters and like, wow, what are some of the really baddies that I can put in front of these guys and just let them play around with in this world. And it was so fun to write that scene here. So hopefully a lot of people will back the campaign and get a look at that. With them down in the rainforest against this really strange supernatural spider, which was just, it was so much fun to be able to write and to actually see that to come to life was really an amazing thing. So I was really happy to be a part of that. And now actually seeing it in print now is going to be a lot of fun too. So
I don't know if I ever told you, but when you got me that script, let me see if I can pull it up. I remember when I got it, I was super excited to do it because it was the first time there was a shared scattered project, but it was more than that.
Yeah.
There's a very specific panel that I was insanely, and I'm trying to find it, that I was insanely excited to do, mainly because the way I read it was a spider kaiju.
Oh, uh-huh.
And there's nothing that gets me more excited about drawing a book than drawing normal dudes trying to kill a kaiju. I got to do one for Travis Gibb in his in one of the Cthulhu books where I made two kaijus fight and then go fight Cthulhu. I was super excited by
yeah.
that. And where is it? Where is it? It's my favorite panel. I know I've used it a million times.
You know, those Cthulhu anthologies, that's one of the regrets that I have, that I was not involved in any of those stories so far.
Dude,
great little series.
It is a great series. Oh, there it is. I was super excited to be a part of it. And when I was talking earlier about Travis and about being a part of those anthologies, that was the thing that kind of woke me up when I was going through all that, was being able to be a part of that. However, somehow when we were doing Neverland, I had talked to him and told him that Neverland is like extremely exciting for me. It's one of my favorite plays, like not genres, one of my favorite subject matters to do. And somehow I screwed up and I missed the second half of the conversation where he told me and Kira to do a script. and then we missed out on it. Here's that panel.
Hey. Oh, yeah.
It's slightly cut off to the right, but the fact that this giant like kaiju-sized bulletproof spider rushes them, and instead of running away like any intelligent person would,
yeah,
they get enthusiastic.
Yeah.
And it was one of my favorite panels I think I've ever got to draw, just because of the sheer delight of the group trying to, I want to say almost idiotically, fight something that large with the idea that they were going to shoot the thing into pieces. It doesn't go that well in the comic book, but they definitely had fun getting their butts handed to them. That's the best way to look at it. Can I just
point out, like, just say how much I actually appreciate your approach at actually lettering each one of the weapons with a different font, just as the distinction between them. A lot of people, I think they kind of get they overdo it with certain things, but I think that is a perfect moment to be able to do something like that. I actually have to commend you on that. So well done.
Well, thank you, Sean. That is not always an easy moment to do. Like, for example, I tried many years ago, and both of you guys have heard me tell this story before, to work with somebody on a project called Inheritance, and a lot of it worked. We sold out at every convention we went to. We got a lot of attention. We sold a lot of books. But he was convinced that every single person talking should have their own font, and he wanted to letter the books himself without truly understanding like the rules about lettering, and it didn't work. And I took a risk when I made that page, and I just found the bigger version of it, so I'm going to show it. I took a risk when I made that to try to do the same thing, but a little simpler.
It was a good opportunity because, like, the way you're conveying what's kind of going on, the action from the guns, the way that the shotgun blast differentiates from the word bubble, differentiates from the tightness of like the bang bang of a pistol.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like each one actually carries over the characteristic of what's being like shot. Like it translates well. So
yeah,
it's hard to write a sound and then translate how that sound is, but you kind of drive that home. And I think a lot of times people think that each character needs to have a different font or something else. And I think in doing that, sometimes you can lose the voice because the writing should translate the voice. Well, guns and things like that, they don't carry a voice, it's a sound. So being able to add that little illustrative little like sprinkle to the top of it is actually a good choice. And so yeah,
I appreciate the fact that it worked, dude, because like I said, I kind of took a risk with that. I actually enjoy lettering quite a bit. I'm not like what I would call the most amazing letterer on the face of the earth, but I do the best that I can with it, and I really enjoy doing it because it gives you a chance that I think more creators should take in. Oh, hello everybody! This is Jeff Aragon. Jeff, can you hear us? Okay. Well,
now he needs a speech bubble just in general.
Yeah, that's. I'm sure he'll pop back on there in a second.
I just want to echo what Sean said, and particularly in this particular panel here, where you've got a lot going on there, and it can be easy to get lost sometimes, but it's really clear. You can see how the spider creature is attacking, and you can tell who's firing off the blast and stuff, and so that's what makes it super exciting to just see this right here, see that panel and stuff. It's came together great.
Yeah, that one did work. Now, Jeff's got his audio up, Jeff's got his video up, so let me introduce him to everybody. That is Jeff Aragon. Jeff Aragon and I have been friends for many, many years. And Jeff wrote the other half of this book where he focused on the story of a mummy, a nasty little undead thing that is sitting here behind my shoulder. And he accomplished some really interesting things about the way that mummy talks and expresses itself inside of the book. I have never hated one of the characters that I had to draw more and wanted to punch them in the face more because he got him to be that annoying. And I'm pretty proud of the way that it got pulled off. So everybody, this is Jeff. Jeff, say hello to everybody.
Hello, nice to meet you.
What's up, Jeff?
How are you guys today?
Good. Yeah, super rad.
Sorry, it took me a minute, James. I totally forgot I don't have a mic or camera on my personal PC, so I had to get my work laptop out and jump on there. So
glad for you to document that that use of your work PC.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so I'm going to go and pull up some of Jeff's story in just a second. And there was some interesting things we got to pull off in there. Jeff and I did this one for an anthology project that we were working on a while ago that had some trouble. And we decided, or after a while, that we didn't want to let go of the story. And so that's basically a big part of the reason why we included it here. So give me 1 second. I'm going to show one of my favorite panels from it because it was a lot of fun. And Jeff, like Keith, had to get used to the way the characters talk to each other because dialogue is a huge part of Damage Inc.
Yeah.
Jeff has met a few more of the people than Keith did in real life that the book's based on, and has listened to me talk about my idiot friends far more often. But
I enjoy the communication between the group. That was probably one of the best parts about writing it, is just the bickering back and forth and the small talk, I'll say.
Yeah, I love it when the character, like down here, we have we have the guy literally deciding that the money from what they're trying to do isn't even worth being where they are, and face palming as an example. This dummy literally, or this dummy, I meant to say, he's a mummy. We got to do some really interesting things inside of this book. Like this is one of the more interesting ones where we have this hallway fight where it's a nonstop fight motion. I think that's the second time I tried it, but it ended up having way more depth than the first one. in a different issue. This one, this character, his name is Kuda, and Kuda is based on a friend of mine who's an actual martial arts master, multiple martial arts. And so I try to mimic how he fights and ways he's hit me as often as possible, because we've sparred plenty of times. And like even here, the mummy starts screaming, "Oh, you got me, you got me," and then starts laughing because you can't actually hurt somebody who's undead with your fists. You actually punched him, and he begins mocking the group for even trying to hurt him in the first place.
It's those interactions that really drive home like the spirit of each one of the characters, and it sets them apart. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like these are the lines Jeff wrote in there. Check this out. He's like, "Oh my God, my nose, my nose." And he literally stopped beating on him because of it. And then literally, "I don't even have a nose, you idiots." And just keeps laughing at him. It's a nonstop, like, smart ass fest with that mummy, to the point where they can't stand him either. Jeff had a really interesting take on him, though. Like, I thought my take on the mummy was to make this horribly dark and annoying creature. Jeff actually tried to write in more about it. Why don't you explain a little bit about your take on them? I know it's in the video that is on the Kickstarter page, but why don't you take an opportunity and go through your thought process, Jeff? Because I thought it was interesting. I didn't know you were going to go that route.
All I was really told was it was based off a post story that I'm not going to lie, I can't say I was familiar with. And I know that makes me sound like a douche, but it just kind of is what it is. So sorry about that. But it was a very talkative mummy, and trying to fit in with Damage in at least the way I've always perceived it, the way I've read it, the way I've talked with James about it. It was, let me do something different. Let me make a mummy that's just, I don't know. When I started doing a little bit of research, I'll say, is when it changed, because, a lot of, Egyptian kings, and I based some of it off of, King Tut, they died at like 18. They're still kids. They're still, they haven't really reached that maturity. And, granted, kids mature differently then than they do now. But in writing it, I was trying to kind of summarize that and give him not a toddler feel, but like this almost innocent, just, I don't want to say mayhem, but this innocence, like annoying, like he's just kind of annoying, trying to do his thing and not, I don't want to say not really take over the world, but he's just a kid. It was the way I kind of started doing it. And it grew from there. The little interactions with Damage Inc. tend to kind of steamroll into other things. I think it's the other book, James, with the Goblin Queen, where I had this panel of just two characters. I think it was Kuda and Gage bickering about, the big guy versus the little guy. And it turned into, I don't know how long, and I had to keep trimming it down, trying to fit it into this 8, 10, 12 page story. But that was kind of where it came from. It was just giving, a villain a different type of personality than you would probably perceive for a mummy.
Yeah.
And what does that say about Damage that likes to hit people with the mindset of a child?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah. Now I'm thinking about it completely different. Just smack the miner for no reason.
Yeah. Jeff pointed that out to
me. I mean, I don't remember if there was anything in there about how old he was. I think I had pictured him, like I said, at about 18.
No, and I was thinking about it in a completely different way. So, like, all the characters that really enjoyed beating the hell out of him.
But let me ask you this question, James.
Yes.
How many members of Damage Inc. would actually probably do that?
Every single one of us.
There you go.
That's right.
There you go.
Yeah.
I can't. As a matter of fact, several of us have been in the spot where we had to deal with like out of controlledness of kids and had to resist doing stuff like that to them. Who hasn't, right?
Yeah.
Now that we're all dads, it probably wouldn't be the same. But I remember like cold cocking a buddy's little brother more than once. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But when you're a group of teenage boys and you're being surrounded by 12-year-olds that won't stop talking to you. That's
Flick them.
We've all been there.
yeah. Totally get that part. But both of the stories were a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And
Yeah.
I think you and Keith both did a really good job of using the page spaces that you had to get the stories concise enough so that they did what Damage Inc. always tries to do and tell a story from beginning to end as much as possible. Even though I enjoy really long books and I enjoy seeing crazy stuff like that, but it doesn't have to always be that way. There's one of the things that comics is struggling to do is to get enough younger readers to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we've lost is, reading, a couple hundred pages isn't always what each kid is up to doing. Like,
Right.
Collecting Bone one issue at a time good God, there's a lot of issues. And it helps to make sure the stories are complete. My son, for example, he is massively into Yosagi Yojimbo right now, massively. And when you start reading them, each one of the issues is a self-contained story. And the farther you get, you start realizing there are subplots that tie those issues together. Very good writing by Stan Sakai. But what attracted James originally is he could sit down and read the story and get from one point to the next. And then when he was ready to pick it back up, go another piece from one point to next. And a lot of writers think that every book they're trying to write is their magnum opus. Yeah. And they forget about the simplicity of doing that monster of the week format that sequential storytelling and episodic storytelling has been doing for a century now. And they miss out on the genius of simplicity. Kira is annoying me. Let's see what she has to say.
You're not wrong. Younger than you.
I think a lot of books are missing out on that story within a story aspect. So that's like with Cerber, there was a story within a story and the overall.
Yeah, but I loved how Cerber ended. Like it was a self-contained piece.
Yeah.
And the ending tied really into the first couple of pages really, really well. Cerber pulled me in when he's talking about having to work and whatnot. It was, you start getting into it when it has a lot about what he's going through and trying to be a part of that gig economy in a way that it's a part of his thoughts and a part of Cerber where it made sense. It wasn't just he happens to go and pick supernatural dudes up in his car. No, it really I wouldn't be surprised if somebody's had some of that happen to him.
Yeah, that self dilemma. Like, here's the thing. Like, but it turns out to be potentially, fatal. But he makes good money doing it, so why not hang with it? And I think, me myself, I've been in a situation where it's like, I hate what I'm doing, but I'm going to keep doing it because it pays. So, when you reach that point where you just sit in that survival mode and you don't really have any other motivation.
But that theme, I think every adult, everybody who's ever had to adult, or let me rephrase that, most people who weren't born with a silver spoon in their mouth identify with that. Like in my day job, I handle inventory at a big company. That's something that Jeff and I have shared for a long time. We used to work together doing that. And it's never been like the thing where when you're 8 years old, you don't go, you know what? I really want to make sure a warehouse is run correctly. Like that does that isn't any kid's dream.
No.
A lot. But understanding that this is what you got to do is something everybody does, and that character does that. And I would argue that every job is taking a little bit of your soul as it goes, every one of them, right? And every job rewards you with either money or some other type of fulfillment. Some are more fulfilling than others, but we're all trading.
It is a trade-off. I know I left a good management job to take an easier job that paid less because I was giving away too much time with my kids. So that was the sacrifice that I decided to do. But
that bleeds through in that book. Just so you know, like that is definitely there. I think out of all of us, Keith's probably got the only job that's even slightly fulfilling when it comes to day work, getting to
Well,
teach high schoolers.
you know, and James, you've been to my, you know, my day job, if you will, at Mariloma High School as a speaker. Which, by the way, it's just been absolutely invaluable to hear your different stories. Your pirate story never gets old, so
Love that story.
that's always a great one to tell. But the perseverance, keeping through, telling stories, staying creative, has been great having you on campus as a guest speaker for my creative writing class, which no longer exists now. So the fulfilling aspect of my job just got taken away. And I don't feel necessarily as bad for myself. It really, really sucks. But I feel bad for the kids now that do not have a creative outlet for their stories and storytelling and that kind of thing. Why they take away electives and in my case, you know, seniors could have taken my class for English credit instead of taking like a standard traditional English class. They could have taken creative writing, right, and done something different with it. And James, you were there to kind of show everybody, look, you can do this, you know, alongside your day gig, or you can do it as a profession. There's avenues for you to stay creative if this is what fills your soul. And so I feel bad for those kids. They're not going to get that experience anymore. But fortunately for me, I'm about ready to get rid of that day job because this will be my last year at Mariloma High School. So you can just, anyway, I won't
I think we can all finish that sentence for you, Keith.
take this job and shove it. Can we get that reference in there?
Yeah,
but yeah, it was great for a while last. So I taught creative writing for 10 years. I had you come in as a guest speaker for 3 times, I think. And many of our scattered group has come in and talked to the kids and really talked to the importance about storytelling, with your, going full force with your passion. If you're a writer, if you're an artist, right? Just keep doing it because it fills your soul like nothing else does.
Yeah. Even when you're doing those other things, like Jeff is still doing his and he wrote these, and I know we've got another script that we're working on. Sean's got his stuff and he and I are working on another book. It doesn't have to be something that you do every day to feel fulfilled, but it is something you should do if you feel that need. And it doesn't matter whether it's comic books or carving totem poles,
right,
or whatever that creative aspect is. That fulfillment is out there for everybody to go ahead and do. And that's one of the legacies and one of the things I try to teach my kids by doing this. I take my kids to the cons with me. Camille has met and been actually babysat by different members of Scattered when we're at those cons. Jeff has been over here talking to them and stuff. I've got these 2 sweet kids. They really are pretty sweet, but they love being at the cons. They love seeing the fact that their dad is trying to do something. It doesn't mean that I have to sell every single book in the world or make a movie, but being successful in the fact that I'm getting something done with them means a lot to them. And showing them that I can do those things, like showing them that these Kickstarters work, showing them that there's other people that believe in it, all that stuff reinforces that for them. And I'm really proud to include them. The huge factor of why I do what I do.
Yeah.
One thing, if I can add to that, James, that hit me, the older I've gotten in life, and I think it's great that you're doing that with the kids, is, you have a legacy that you can leave them. That they can look back on years down the road and remember you, and go to a con and see people talk about, oh man, I read this, I loved it, it was great. The 9 to 5 jobs that we've discussed sometimes just don't provide that. It's not like, I'm going to pass away and my kids are going to go, yeah, he did, he did management and he loved that. He was in IT. It's like there's nothing tangible, like a book that they can go, hey, he did this. And that's that's something you've done, and that's something I admire, and I think it's awesome.
It's definitely something that I've enjoyed and has become that's part of why I was getting so upset during the pandemic. I was commuting, I was driving down to the Bay Area to do my job, and I'm proud of the work that I did while I was doing that because I was helping a friend, but I wasn't getting anything else done. I wasn't spending time with my kids, and even though I was doing artwork for books, I had no energy to get the final thing organized.
Yeah.
I didn't. I Keith has seen it. Like a bunch of scatter were still getting out to cons and have gone to cons now, and me who used to go like gung ho to every single one of them. Like I should have been in Reno with Keith last week. I wasn't, but I should have been. Getting started back into this and making changes in my life so that I could was important. Like there was a time right after I moved to Reno, and this was in 2007, where I was absolutely miserable. I hadn't done anything creative. I hadn't worked on any of my books. I wasn't even getting to play role-playing games because work was so much. And it got so bad. I worked so hard. I gave myself cancer. And Keith, you saw me right after. Jeff, you kind of found out about it while it was going on. But like not having that fulfilling, like that, all that negative energy, all that frustration, all that stuff was building up inside of me. And I may have worked myself down to the bone to do what I was doing, but like not having the soul and the energy to go through with anything creative definitely was a part of that experience, and definitely was a part of both the suffering. Sorry, Kier's making me laugh. It was definitely part of that suffering, and getting out and doing creative stuff was definitely a part that kind of pulled me out of that experience, pulled me out of the grief and the trauma. And like Sean, I know you've been like not with cancer, but you've been on that same spot where you were that deep in that hole mentally, and you were trying to be creative, and you started getting more stuff done. And I saw like the light in you change as you were getting more things finished. I've seen Jeff's got his own version of that story, although most of it happened like Louisiana. But there's all kinds of bits and pieces, and when you have that creative outlet, that creative outlet can be that ladder that you start using to get yourself out of that hole, as long as you have the confidence to do it. And then when you're that creative person, it's really important. And I think that's also one of the lessons that I'm trying to make sure my kids remember as a part of that legacy. It's got more than one aspect to it. As a matter of fact, there's another project that is actually about getting through that trauma and getting through that grief, which I've got several damage scripts that are going to be hitting Kickstarter between now and March of next year. But when that's done, the next book after that is going to be Nod. And you guys have all seen bits and pieces of Nod.
Yeah.
Nod has got a lot of emotion tied up into it, and it's a really hardcore, like doubling down on trying to exhibit how that mind gets in that phase. But to recap really quick, checking out the old Kickstarter page. I'm going to show that part here for just a second. Give me one moment, because I know everybody has spent a lot of time here, time in which I really appreciate, and I want to share what that's done so far, if I can be smart enough to do this correctly. Gotta love technology and how good we are at it. Okay, apparently I'm not. 1 second, let me try it one more way. There we go. And now I will go back. I know this.
I was going to mention that part of the legacy stuff that kind of goes along with it. One of the cool things was, I know how you bring your kids along with you to each convention. I bring my oldest son with me wherever I go.
It was good meeting him, by the way.
I mean, you met him years ago, and then you like re-met him because now he went from being knee high to this high, which is upsetting. But one of the level up moments for me was not necessarily the comic book itself, but actually bringing my oldest son into the creative process, because he's actually one of the creative editors for the treatment that we're working on. And so that was kind of a moment for me. So reaching back into that legacy thing and giving him something to also be passionate about was kind of a cool opportunity.
Cool.
But look at you, dude. Check it out.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I'm refreshing it to make sure it's got the most recent data here for a second. And my screen.
And James has met my kids before too.
Yep.
When I brought them to, I think, Stockton Con, maybe, I think.
Yep. And didn't your daughter just sold her first work up at the Reno Con, didn't she?
We were at Reno Con, and again, back when James and I were at Stockton Con, my kids were small. They were out there looking at plushy toys and stuff like that. Well, Talia is now an artist, and so she had a chance to sell some of her prints up at Reno Con. And there's actually a kind of a funny story, which again James can attribute to this, is when you have a vendor not show up, right? It's bad for the organizer, right? In this case, Colossus Girl Entertainment was the one running it. But it's also bad for the table at the end of the row, and the open table, like nobody is there, was supposed to be there, didn't show up. So we would have people come down the aisle, look at the empty table, and turn around and go back. Mm-hmm. Like not even look at my table at the end. I'm like, okay, this is not going to stand, because I learned from James, you do not have a hole down the freaking aisle like what happened at the first time we went to Santa Rosa Con. That was insane. That was crazy insane. Maybe you can tell that story. But I went over, I found Marina. She's with Colossus Girl. I'm like, there's an empty table next to me. And of course, she was really busy, couldn't really talk, but she said, just take it. So I moved Talia over to the empty table, and I took the other table. And all of a sudden, people started saying, wow, take a look at these prints. This is amazing. And so people started really looking at her work, and she sold like 5 prints and did 3 commissions. She had a great day. I had a great day. It was fantastic. And the only thing that could have made it better is if James would have been there with us. So.
Yeah, Sean has also got a similar story about me not tabling at Sinister and all kinds of stuff. But the thing was I wasn't ready. And because I like to have the books that I want to have, the projects I want to have in front of me. And in all honesty, if I don't have all that, when I'm at the con, like all I think about is the fact that, like, Keith, do you remember when I was supposed to have all those brand new shirts for Chico Con, and I had talked about it and advertised for it, and then my shirt guy totally missed the deadline. I had a great time at that con, but all I thought about was the fact that I did not have what I said I was going to have at the con, and it just made me a sourpuss. I talked about all kinds of frustrating topics all day instead of enjoying the moment. Like Sean and I were talking about Chuck Pignot, who has a really great theory about how to keep your mental focus at a con on the experience, not on, whatever the goal was. You want to have your goal. You want to work towards your goal. You want to plan towards your goal. But when you're there, your die is cast. It's time for you to be a part of the experience. Whereas when people are interacting with an author and with a creator, they're looking for an experience, whether it's on Kickstarter, whether it's on Facebook, whether you're meeting one of your idols at the convention. That's a part of it. Like I got to hang out with Mel Ruby, who used to do Conan. I got to talk to James O'Barr, the creator of The Crow, and fanboy out for like 15 minutes. And there's all these different experiences that are a part of that. And it's our job to give those experiences to the people who are coming and looking at us. And that's a big part of that experience. I'm really proud of your daughter for having the courage to take that table and do that with it. And you're right. I remember that hole at Santa Rosa and my energetic and passionate response to the situation at the time. But it's a part of that, of trying to work those out. Those con organizers, they've got their job to do. And unfortunately, artists are flaky. If there's no other way around that term. And anybody who says otherwise just really hasn't hung out with a creative person much. But to verbalize what's going on with Damage Inc., I am super stoked. We have only been online for about an hour. We've already got 10 backers. We're at 356, which is already past the 50% mark up to the goal. I am totally happy about that progress. And I really appreciate the fact that you guys have helped me out so much today. We have done about an hour talking about all of this. There's going to be a few other events coming up. I'm going to be on a podcast tomorrow with Eric. Oh man, I have the hardest time pronouncing his last name. He is behind. Oh gosh darn it, I'm blanking out.
Sean,
it always happens when you're recording a call, James.
No, when you're live is when it happens.
Is that Eric Cockrell? Mugspout?
Yeah, Mugspout. I'm on Mugspout with Eric Cockrell, and he was nice enough to get me onto that. I'm going to be on Superhero Speak a little bit later on the 16th. And I'll be talking about the project in both of those places as well. I'm planning on showing some other live events and including videos in the Kickstarter with updates, just like I did with the inking of some of those live pieces. I've got a lot more planned with those. I've got 9 more 7x10 sketches to complete, which I'm doing homages for indie comics. I'm going to be doing The Crow, Hellboy. The Crow's already done. I did the Turtles, and then I did the voiceover with James, who loves the Turtles. So we talked about why he loves the Turtles so much. And I'm going to be putting those up. So I hope everybody gets a chance to see them. But today, you guys have helped me out a lot over the last couple of years. And I really want to tell you guys, I appreciate it. I really appreciate you guys coming up here today and helping me announce Kickstarter, having Damage Inc. back up onto it again. I'm totally excited about the new volume. And I can't wait to see your guys' projects that are coming out soon. I can't wait to see how treatment turns out as we get those pages done, Sean. I can't wait to see your inks on my lines. So that everybody knows, I forgot to mention this. Sean Barber is actually an inker who's been very much developing his style over the last couple of years. And that book, The Treatment, I'm penciling it for him. And we've got a lot of stuff blocked out and the roughs done. I'm going to be getting into a bunch of those pencils and tweaking them. And then Sean's going to be coming back over on those lines. Keith has the project he's working on with Scattered, where we're going across multiple Scattered books, right. Scattered universe. So my characters are going to show back up in there. I believe we get to shoot people some more later on. They don't shoot the. I think there's a little kid in the end of the story.
Right.
Yeah. We and I believe the other Scattered characters convince us not to shoot him.
Right.
That really shows their frame of mind. And with Jeff and I are working on. We've got the next issue of Damage Inc. is actually going to be his crazy voodoo goblins and Damage Inc. trying to wrestle them up. Yeah, it's a fun story. James is actually afraid of one of the panels, and he makes me check underneath chairs for him now whenever he sits down, because Jeff wrote this passage about goblins coming up underneath and getting your feet, and it's hecka creepy. That one's got a second part that we're also developing, so there's going to be lots more in store. I really appreciate you guys' help today, and I look forward to doing some more stuff in the future with everyone.
Yeah,
for
awesome.
Sure.
Okay, awesome. So thank you, everybody, and for everybody who is watching and took the time to back today, thank you guys so much as well. I hope that you guys enjoy what I have in store, and I hope it goes really well for everybody.
Nice to meet you,
man. Glad to be a part of it.
And a gentleman.
Have a good one.
All right.
Oh, and Keith, I backed your campaign just now too, by the way.
Thank you. All right.
I got it open on the other monitor, but haven't done anything with it yet.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Keith, chat me the link real quick, and I'll put it up on this broadcast as well.
Oh, okay, I got it in the private chat. So.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Awesome. I see it.
Okay.
I see it.
I am going to add it as soon as I figure that out. Okay, everybody. The broadcast is going to end now. I appreciate everybody and have a good day.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Good night.
Peace.
Thank you.